Thank you for joining me on Living One Day Older, a network on LinkedIn on Saturday afternoons, 12 noon Eastern Standard Time. Our network attracts your more mature audience, your 50 plus group, which would be me. Today, I'm going to bring on our guest, Anna Charles. She is from the UK, and we have a question for Anna. Hello, Anna. Let's bring her on.
Hey, Amy.
Hello, Anna. What a pleasure it is to have you on. So thank you for joining me.
Mhm.
I have a question for the audience. Ever wish you didn't drink, you guys? Are you tired of saying yes to a glass of wine that you really would rather say no to?
Mhm.
I know that has been in my boat for quite a while. And Anna, I have to say that I have liberated myself, and I would love for you and I to chat about how others can liberate themselves.
Very happy. I want any opportunity to talk about this. There is way too much judgment when it comes to alcohol.
And self-judgment, right?
Yes.
Shame for not drinking. I'm like, how did that even happen? Like, because what I'm speaking of is shame, when you're standing there at a social gathering, or if a host, you walk into someone's home, or you're sitting at a dining table at a restaurant with friends, it's all of a sudden it's the stigma that, oh, I'll have the glass of wine, or, I'll have the cocktail. And then you say, I'll have a blah, 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 and soda water. And they're like, oh, don't drink,
Mhm.
let's talk about that, because I think we'll talk about a lot of things, but let's start with that. How about it?
Yeah, it is. It is weird, I think. I mean, it is so incredibly normalized. I mean, this is alcohol. I don't demonize alcohol, by the way. I mean, I don't think it helps. I don't talk about it being poison and all this stuff, because then when we drink, we just think, I must be really dumb, right? I'm putting poison into my body. But notwithstanding that, this is something that is an addictive substance, and it is so normalized that you are normal if you can take it. And if you decide you don't want it, or you think, actually, I'm not going to drink because I really don't like the effects, then you are the weirdo. I mean, the number of hours I used to spend trying to work out what I was going to say when people ask me, what are you having? It's and you just and I actually tell my clients, practice, because we get so wound up. Am I going to crack? So just practice. But then, hey, just think about that. I mean, really, we are saying no to something that but it's the society we live in. We aren't going to change that.
No.
So I say we can change ourselves instead.
Right. Well, tell us, what's your first memory of drinking?
Do you know what? My first memory of drinking was I was about 17-ish, maybe I was 16, and I would drink lager and lime because my dad drank lager and lime. And Amy, I didn't like it. I
You
didn't
know,
like it.
I agree. I think my first time drinking was actually, I snuck beer at a New Year's Eve gathering of my neighbors across the street when I was like 9. And I actually did get drunk. And this is back in the 70s. So, they would kind of, it was a middle class of the 70s period. And there was a lot of giggling of the guys across,
Mm-hmm.
seeing me sneak, whatever it was. Just so like, I remember being on my skateboard and, but I didn't drink. I didn't pick it up. But I did in high school. Okay. So the kids would get together and they'd want to have that beer or whatever. And I didn't like the flavor back then. So I actually didn't really drink with them quite on that level. Anyway, moving forward, here we are adults. And, you know, the, what I have found, and I'll just talk a little bit about my experience, because I'm at my last month in my 50s. And yes, this is true. You wouldn't
To
realize it.
celebrate.
And going forward, these are pivotal times in our lives. And going forward, I think of am I comfortable with this? Honestly, I'm not. So I decided it wasn't like that January 1st. What do they call it? January, dry January.
Yeah.
I picked it up on January 21st, and I haven't gone back. I have had a drink, and I have had, again, an experience because of that one drink. I've actually had a couple. One time I was on my bike, and I went to a place that I wanted to get a taco, and they had this very cold apple orchard cider, and it was delicious, Anna. It was delicious. It was so cold. It could have been any cider, really, but and that was a fine experience. Nothing.
Mm-hmm.
However, I had another experience that the next day. So it was one beer. I had another experience where I said, "Oh, let me crack myself this one beer. It's really hot. It's hot right now over here." And the next day, I had a lot of self-doubt. I had a lot of negative emotions. I had a lot of that self-talk going on in my head and the only thing I could really say that was different was that the night before I had a beer.
Yeah. Yeah.
You want to touch on some things there?
Yeah, I think there's this. People say to me all the time, "How much is too much?" Because I'm not part of the sort of the big sobriety is everything movement. I mean, if people want to cut back entirely, I can help them do that. If they just want to cut back a bit, I can help them do that. I always say it comes down to the results you're getting in life. So in your case, just the one, and you had all this happen, right? And it's like, okay, so is it connected? Maybe there was something else, but even if it isn't, if that is the thing, am I willing to then go through that in order to have that consequence? Whereas there are people who maybe they can drink 2 or 3 and be totally fine with it, and they want that, right? They would choose to have that because I have clients who, this is very interesting, who are really into wine. I mean, really like wine. No, one of my clients actually works in the wine trade.
Yeah.
And so they have a genuine interest in it, in the same way that you might have an interest in photography or whatever. And there's a big difference between over drinking, where you are really not getting the results you want, and drinking. And so I think that's where we come in. So if we're not liking the results we're getting, we can tone it down a bit and feel fine with that. And what that level is, it's up to the person.
And every industry has, if you go back, has some really cool history to it. And the wine industry, the cocktail industry has really interesting stories that surround it. From soil and weather and sociological aspect of what's going on in that time period. Whether you're talking about something in the 1500s or the monks. How they make their wine.
Exactly.
Great stories. So somebody in the wine industry, it's like, don't tear me away from my stories. But there's other stories that we can tell, because it's not always about the I cannot and pulling away from don't, but there's the just switching. It's almost like if you're in a room and somebody starts to go down a rabbit hole with inappropriateness, and not that wine or anything like that is inappropriate, but what if somebody were? Would you say, would you scold them, or would you gently bring the conversation to another realm? So for me, there are so many flavors, Anna, out there that are really stimulating for us, that is available nowadays. People are making syrups, and I had a homemade grenadine the other day, and I had it in a soda water with a twist of lime. I craved it. I wanted another one. It was delicious. And grenadine is made from pomegranate. And then there was this bartender had a little boiler on the side and had a pot of tarragon. And so she just put 2 tablespoons of tarragon in my grenadine with soda water. Delicious. It was like a meal in a cup, if you will, There's other ways to say yes, is what I'm saying, and other stories that we can bring to the table, if you will.
I think so. I think that's right. I think so often when we are, so if somebody's trying to drink less, what is very tiring is continually saying no to yourself. Because
Yeah.
people say all the time, you just got to say no. I mean, really, that is the most simple. You put the glass down and you say no. So then if you have anything else, even it could be the fanciest mocktail, to the fanciest whatever, if you are still thinking, yeah, but it's not as good as that crisp wine over there, right? We are in effect saying no to ourselves, and it becomes exhausting. And then anything that is really actually genuinely nice, we see as less than, which is
Right.
nuts. It's like when people get into the habit of watching a sunset. And this was a sunset. And say, oh, this would be so much nicer with a glass of wine. It's just like, there's just something nuts there. So it's all about saying yes to yourself, right? So you talk about all these other fancy flavors and all the rest. I actually really, really, really like San Pellegrino is my brand of choice, mineral water in a wine glass. I think for me that is so, I like the taste, I like the size of the bubbles, and I've got this fancy glass. And every time I have that, I really feel like this is something special. Right?
That's it.
This is not some replacement fake pretending I'm having wine at all. I'm saying yes to myself.
There you go. And that was another topic. I brought some props here to share because we can have our wine glasses.
Look at that.
Isn't
That's
that
so
cute?
cool. That's so cute.
We can drink out of other glassware. It doesn't have to be the big clunky tumbler. And here you go. Mules are so delicious, right? Everybody loves a good mule, and they're always served in these copper cups.
Yeah.
Glassware, it's cup. So what I've done is, first of all, it's copper. So I've learned through a new friend of mine with the brand Pure, which is an amazing brand that I will talk about another time. But she had copper pitcher at her house with water in it, and it's really great for the body to absorb copper. So I now keep my 6 glasses of copper I have a special area, and it's pretty, right? I mean, it's pretty.
Yes.
I set up a little area and I fill them up with water, and I let them sit. So then I have a glass of copper water every day. Make it special. Bring magic.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I'm not a child. I'm not a 6-year-old. I do not need. I love that you talk about those clunky tumblers. Well, it's a funny story. We went out for dinner with a couple of friends a week ago, and they were both sharing a bottle of wine, and I was on my water in a wine glass. It was an Italian restaurant, and I think the waiters were just very confused because this does take some explaining that I'd like water. They bring the tumbler. No, I want a wine glass, please. And then they put, no, I don't want the wine in the. And my husband's going, oh. And always a bit of a faff, but then I get what I want, which is the water in the wine glass. So.
Yes, yeah, we we just have to help guide people along this journey that we're on, don't we? And you've got a guide, Anna, that is the 90 days later, and people can tap onto that. I'm going to put it in the LinkedIn when we post this. And it is, what is it called? And tell us about it.
It's called Crush the Cravings, and it's 3 things to do when you feel like you can't say no. Because really, Amy, it's all about the cravings. I mean, this is what people say. I'm out there and I'm all set. I know what I'm going to do. I'm just going to have the 1. I'm going to have the 2, or however many. And then the temptation, and it comes over me, and I have this urge or this craving. And it's kind of like this outer body of experience. It's like a spaceman comes down and then changes us, and we find ourselves drinking. This is what happens. Actually, we don't find ourselves drinking. Something happens. So in this guide, I give people 3 things to do, and you can just do it on repeat, and you need to practice them. It's not something you can do once and be brilliant at. But then if you do this will change your experience of interacting with alcohol in the moment, which is the most important thing.
I went to your guide, and you really have some great, easy steps, and we're not going to give them up here. So Please, everybody, dial into Anna's guide, and I will put the information in the comments of the link on LinkedIn. And you want to close with anything, Anna?
I think the thing I normally get asked, Amy, is how can I start? I think I drink too much. How can I start? What's the first thing to do? In addition to downloading my guide and learning how to manage your cravings, it would be, I would say, get lots of awareness of when you drink, how you show up when you drink, where you are. Just get all that awareness, because then once we start to see what's happening consciously, then we can make changes. So often we just don't know what's going on. So just sort of become a record keeper and note it all down, and then you can take changes from that.
Well, thank you for joining me today. It was lovely having you. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me on. It's a joy to chat with you as always.
Thank you. So everybody, thank you for joining us on Living One Day Older, which I call LODO. We curate relationships and we connect affiliated partners with their 50+ audience who seek products and services from you. So if you'd like to speak with me further on Living One Day Older, please just get a hold of me on LinkedIn or Instagram under Amy Hammond, and I look forward to it. Thank you, everybody. Bye-bye for now.